Hello, this is Mrs. Goodlett, and today we'll be reading from Alan Gratz, Ground Zero, a novel of 9/11. Rashmina, the Cedars of Afghanistan. Give that back, Pasoon cried, and he lunged for his plastic airplane. Rashmina was too fast for him. He held it above her head and twisted away when Pasoon made another grab for it. Give it to me, Pasoon commanded. You're just a girl. You have to do what I tell you. I'm not a girl. I'm your sister, Rashmina shot back, which somehow made sense. Pasoon swiped for the plane again, and Rashmina danced out of the way. You can't tell the Taliban about Taz, Rashmina told her brother. We gave him asylum. Taz, Pasoon said. Rashmina blushed. That's his name, the American soldier, and you can't give him refuge and take revenge on him at the same time. See if I can't, Pasoon told her. Burell is as Pashtunwali as Nanawatali. Pasoon grabbed for the airplane, but Rashmina was too quick for him again. The Taliban don't respect Pashtunwali, Rashmina said. They've killed just as many Afghanistans as the Americans have. When was the last time we had peace? Pasoon asked. Under the Taliban, that's when. They ended the civil war. The Taliban killed whole families for no reason. Rashmina told him, feeling a flash of frustration. Made women wear burqas and locked them away in their houses. They gave people jobs, Pasoon argued. Darwish and Aman told me. Darwish and Aman? Darwish and Aman, Rashmina taunted in a sing-songy voice. Darshwin and Aman told me to jump off of a mountain, so I did. Do you ever have a thought that Darshwin and Aman didn't give you first? Pasoon's expression turned stormy. It's all right. Here's my own thoughts, Rashmina. Do you think I'm going to be able to afford to get married, herding goats that have nothing to eat, and growing crops in a never-ending drought? No, he said. Why should I starve when the Taliban pay 20 times what I can make working for myself? They're killers, Pasoon. If you join them, you'll become one too, Rashmina said flatly. Have you forgotten who killed the person who gave me that plane? Pasoon said, pointing at the toy. He sounded calmer now, more resolute, as though arguing with Rashmina had talked him into joining the Taliban, not out of it. The Americans dropped a bomb on our sister, Rashmina said, on her wedding day. Rashmina tried to fight off that awful memory, came flooding back to her, overwhelming her. The day had started as one of the happiest days of Rashmina's life. Her sister Hilla had been 16 and promised in marriage to a boy from a neighboring village. It was tradition to escort the bride-to-be to the house of her new family, where the wedding would take place, and the procession was always a party. Rashmina's whole village had turned out for the parade. Married couples walked arm in arm, and young people sang and danced and fired rifles in the air. Rashmina and Pasoon had been 9 years old. They'd chased each other around the adults, laughing and squealing at the top of their lungs. Rashmina had finally caught Pasoon and paused to catch her breath. That's when Rashmina heard it, an angry buzz like a hornet's nest. She and Pasoon had looked up at the same time, searching the sky for the source of the sound. Rashmina saw it now in her mind's eye, as clear and sharp as she had been in that day. An American drone high in the sky. It was sleek and gray, with wide wings like an eagle and a tail like a fish. She and Pasoon had watched it as it flew closer, closer, coming up behind the wedding procession. Something small and black detached from the drone and streaked out toward the front of the parade, toward her sister in her beautiful wedding dress, surrounded by her friends. Rashmina remembered the swoosh of the missile, the gray trail of smoke behind it, and then Rashmina turned away, feeling the heat of the blast on her face all over again as she stood there in the mountains with Pasoon 2 years later. Now that she was older, she understood what had happened. The happy gunshots of the wedding procession had registered as an attack on an American airplane flying so high up that none of them had ever seen it or heard it. But that had been enough for an American soldier in some tent miles away, somewhere, to fire a missile at them with a drone. If the Americans can't be here without killing innocent people, they must leave the valley, Pasoon said. Otherwise, there will be jihad. Rashmina understood her brother's anger. She felt it too, but a holy war wasn't the answer. So you're going to leave our family and join the Taliban? Rashmina said. Leave me? Pasoon swallowed. Yes, and not because Darwish and Aman told me to, because I want to. Rashmina nodded. She had known this day was coming, but a part of her wanted to pretend that things would never change, that she and Pasoon could be young and happy and carefree forever. But they were both growing up fast, too fast. A chill went through her like the winter wind cutting through her shawl. Pasoon chose that moment to dive forward, not for the toy plane, but for Rashmina. He tackled her to the ground and tried to pin her to take the plane away. Rashmina kicked and grunted, but where she was quick, Pasoon was strong. She tossed the plane away instead. Pasoon scrambled over her trying to get at the toy, and Rashmina grabbed his foot. Pasoon fell flat on his face in the dirt, and Rashmina ran and snatched up the plane before he could get to it. Ha! Rashmina crowed, and she held the little plane in the air triumphantly. Pasoon stood, and Rashmina was shocked to see tears in his eyes. She had wanted to make him mad, not sad. She suddenly felt terrible for taking the toy from him. Keep it then, Pasoon said. He kicked a rock in Rashmina's direction, a little of the old anger overriding his sadness, and then he turned and walked away. Rashmina's heart broke. As twins, she and Pasoon knew exactly how to hurt each other, but they had always known where the line was and when they'd crossed it. Pasoon, Rashmina called, following behind him. Pasoon, I'm sorry. Pasoon didn't want to listen, and Rashmina trailed along behind him in silence. There was a graveyard on the other side of the mountain, and it matched their quiet mood as they walked through it. Hundreds of stone mounds dotted the hillside. The larger ones were for men and women. The smaller mounds belonged to children and babies. Some of the rock piles had colorful blankets on them, mementos left by loved ones for the recently buried. Over others bent tall wooden poles with ragged green flags on top, marking the graves of people who had died fighting the jihad against the Soviet Union when Rashmina's parents were children. In some places, the stones were scattered and low, and it was hard to tell there had been a grave there at all. So many dead Afghanistans, Rashmina said quietly. Pasoon, if you join the Taliban, you're going to end up dead and buried under a pole of rocks somewhere. So I should wait around to die in our village like our sister, Pasoon said, without looking at her, without stopping, like Barlas, like old Nazanina, like Uncle Matar. Baba's leg was torn up by a landmine just clearing a field for planting. If I'm going to die one way or another, I might as well die fighting. For revenge, Rashmina said bitterly. For freedom, Pasoon told her. Everybody invades and tries to tell us how to live our lives. The Greeks, the Mongols, the British, the Soviets, the Americans. The Taliban, Rashmina added. The Talibans are Afghanistan's. But they only became powerful because they were supported by foreigners, Rashmina said. She had learned about it in school. People from Pakistan and from Saudi Arabia who wanted to tell us how to live. And invaders always beat us so easily because they have better weapons than we do. Greek shields, Mongol bows, British cannons, Soviet gunships, Taliban rockets. American drones, Pasoon added. Yes, American drones, Rashmina said, feeling a pain of sorrow for Hilla all over again. But you know why we're always behind. Because while everybody else in the world is making things, we're fighting wars. We never get to move ahead, Pasoon. We're stuck in the past. Infidels and outsiders may conquer us, Pasoon said, still looking ahead, but they can never rule us. Conquering Afghanistan and keeping it are two different things. Rashmina huffed. Pasoon wasn't listening to her. Why would anybody want to rule Afghanistan? She asked, frustrated. There's nothing left to rule. Rashmina saw a dried up old cedar cone on the ground and picked it up. Once their father had told them, giant cedars towered over every kilometer of these mountains. Anna told stories of streets in the capital, Kabul lined with cedar trees. Now those trees were all but gone. Each invading army had cut down more and more of them, and the Afghans had cut down still more to pay for weapons to drive the invaders out again. Now Afghanistan was brown and rocky and dead. The only cedars left survived in the most inhospitable mountains, places where even armies feared to go. Is there some life left in this old cedar cone? Rashmina wondered. Something dormant inside, ready to sprout if given the room and resources to grow? Rashmina broke open the cone. There were still seeds inside. She took one, leaned over, and pushed the seed deep into the ground. That seed would grow to be a cedar tree, 50 meters tall, and stand for 1,000 years if only everyone would let it. Pasoon, Rashmina said. What if there was another way? What if? But when she looked up, Pasoon was gone.